I don't accept any money,
Correct.
so I don't see why that should be in here.
That is why it's in there for you all's discussion, and I just found out recently you don't take it.
I would
Never
take it down
have.
to 14,000 where it was this year.
So, if is that consensus with everyone?
We can do this. I mean, we're saving a lot in it this year because of non-attendance.
Correct.
Mm. I would say 12,000. Say
If
5,000.
you do have extra workshops, just keep in mind, it's $175 an hour. So I don't know which works out to be cheaper for you. If you do decide you want extra
170, it's $200 a meeting, Bruce.
for you all, but per your contract, anything over X amount of meetings, it's $175 an hour
For them,
for us. And
but that doesn't come out of payroll.
Yeah, it doesn't come out of
No,
Board of
Is that a
Supervisors.
DOT?
Right.
Well, 12,000, 14,000, we
Well, just
did
makes-
11,800 last year. I wouldn't expect we'd have any more workshops than we did. I'm okay with going to 12,000.
Say
We're gonna
five,
cut it
nice,
somewhere.
nice round number.
you had 3 this year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the workshops are very valuable to truly get things out. The only thing I understand that you don't take a payment, but if God forbid something were to happen to you and you were replaced by somebody who did, my only concern would be I'd rather budget on the slightly higher side. It's not that much than to get caught with their knickers around their
But
ankles.
we regularly exceed budget items anyway, so it's only gonna be $2,000, and I just, based on the uproar among the residents, I'm just looking to see where we can just shave a little off here, a little off there. Dan?
Yeah,
And again, remember, between now and our formal budget adoption,
We can lower it.
right,
we
pull
can
down.
drop, but we can't go
Right,
up.
my perspective is considering that and considering some of the larger numbers that maybe we just stick it for now and keep moving down the list.
Stick what for now?
Stick with the number that we have on there for now.
Oh.
Understanding that we can pull it back
Yeah.
down and as we go through the budgeting process, we need to, but this is our time to,
Well, we can lower it to 14 for sure.
okay.
14 should be plenty of fat at 14.
Yeah.
Okay,
14.
so we'll put it at 14.
And that changes the payroll down to, well, the FICA.
Well, it'll do it automatically,
Yeah.
won't it? So I don't think we
So
need
you
to
want to
calculate
put
that.
14 back?
14,000.
Lots of things here. The next several lines are not really.
Right.
Arbitrage
The
rebate is
next
fixed.
is engineering and legal services. Both of those are currently shown at 60,000. Our legal services is flat fee 48,000.
But that
but
doesn't
that
include.
does not include
Sit. Lie down.
any courtroom work or extra work that would be needed. So and engineering at 60,000, less than this last year, but more than previous years. However, we've seen that our district does need engineering.
Yeah, but 60,000.
I have a question of our engineer regarding this. Because one of the things we have on our, I don't want to say docket, but that we're envisioning is that we're going to have to do a significant repair on the drainage in the estates. Rather than going through a very lengthy engineering process, can we request a bid or several bids and have you inspect the work of the
Well, the estates will not be construction plans like we've done for the other projects you consider later in the discussion. It'll be excerpts from the CCTV inspection report. We'll create a one-sheet special to give the 3 or 4 vendors to give you a price of the piping repairs. So it won't involve permitting, extensive construction plans. There'll just literally be a 2 or 3 page with a figure that says, all right, vendors, this is what to do. these repairs.
So it won't be expensive engineering wise.
Not like Arden or milling, resurfacing, or this RV storage, or all the other stuff we've done the past year.
And what else, what other projects do you see coming up might impact what we spend on engineering?
Well, depending if you guys decide to shelf the 3 biggies that we've done for the last year or move forward with them. Garden Road is pretty much done. Building resurface is on the street for bids, so those plans are done, and the RV storage, other than 3 or 4 comments from the county, is practically done.
Well, now David, help me with this, because the RV storage, they gave us an exception to go ahead and put the fence up without all of the site plan work that needs to be done and the engineered layout of the parking area. Is that not correct? So we would still have to, if we're continuing on with that project, we'll have to go through more engineering on it to do the actual parking layout, make sure it meets the standards required for turning radiuses and parking space. So that would be a cost
If you decide to move forward.
if we move forward. And so any other engineering, I know you were keeping an eye on the stormwater pond at Waterside.
Yeah, I haven't heard any complaints from that in the last year. When the year that started, and that was, I think, considered low. We are entering a rainy season. We'll see how it behaves this summer. Assess that.
With the study that we had to do for the legislature, what is the next phase of it after you turn in the June 30th?
5 years from now, they will have everybody go to the same fire drill.
Okay, so
No
that's,
projects are generated from that. It's an accounting procedure for Tallahassee to determine the shortfall of $1 million for citizens.
right. All right. Anything else you can see coming down the pipe, folks?
I can say, I think we're good, but we can have a nice little storm this summer and,
That's right.
things are off the charts.
There wasn't any engineering work left for Billy's Trail.
There's like culverts and some grading, so there might be like a 1-sheet special for that. Doesn't require South Florida permitting or county permitting.
So the only other thing here where there's any fat is there's really nothing under administrative aside from what we've just discussed, really.
Correct.
Right.
So we have to move on to field management, and that's
That's
significantly,
Wait a minute, you're not gonna cut engineering?
Why would we?
maybe not at this point.
Yeah, I would look at it as we get down the road to the final budget.
We have some
And
decisions to
We
make that
can
will
also
impact
look
that.
possibly at legal services at that time too. So
All right, so,
if
oh,
we can be
okay,
good kids and not get into legal trouble.
collection cost is gonna adjust as we adjust the
Right.
tax collector special
that's-
assessment.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Well, I'm just reading down the column.
Yeah, and they took out printing and binding, so I think Carol is correct, but that's the, in field services.
It's the same, it hasn't gone up.
It
Um,
increased there.
It's the same as, the same budget number as it
Right.
is this year.
I didn't increase management or field, being that I've only been here coming up even on a year. Field, June is coming up on a year, so I didn't touch those.
We're still
Thank you.
adjusting.
Can we back up a second, back to administrative?
Mhm.
We plugged in $3,000 for meeting expenses, but I think you made the decision to stay here, or did we not?
When I did a full review of all the different expenses floating around there, sometimes there are some extraneous, if we need an extra item.
Oh, okay, a plug-in line,
So
okay.
this is just meeting expenses, so if we do end up having to go somewhere else because they want to sell this house, we'll have it in the budget. And then we can use it for other things if they do us. Down in field, I'll just quickly give you, I think we need to leave this in the budget because we don't have anything for certain But because we needed access to some controller boxes, I did have reason to speak to the Harmony Cove folks that bought the property up there. They will be talking to your group about the possibility of doing a swap property for building us a field services up there in the town center. So that we'd be out.
Town center?
It's off to the side, you know, near
You're
the,
talking about off Sebastian Bridge.
Right.
At the corner of Sebastian, or like
Exactly.
the southeast corner of Sebastian Bridge.
right, where it's tucked in near the lift station and everything, and they could provide them with proper potable water and sewer and all the amenities,
about,
facilities that go with it.
So currently they have trailers, storage trailers, so what would happen with that?
They would design and build storage bays onto the structure.
Okay.
But again, that's just nebulous out there, so nothing, it's just she and I talking, but no decisions made. So we need to keep those fees, and you did check to make sure, to your knowledge, they're not going up, the
Correct.
rental fees.
That is accurate.
The next thing is landscaping services, and again, we can't do anything right now with that, so just leave that alone. Utilities, they are just turning over the enclave street lighting to us, so we're gonna add that. Street lighting, electricity, the street lighting in general is like the heater for the swimming pool, the lights in the bathhouses.
The
things like
electricity
that.
of the lights.
That's what.
No,
this-
that-
We don't
the
pay
elec-
electricity on the lights.
The electricity in general is just our general electricity, not street light. Electricity, street lighting is the electricity to run the street lights.
But what about the maintenance fees?
And that's-
The electricity.
That's part in the street lighting. They lump all that street lighting stuff together. And then we have the utilities, water and sewer.
But we're going to have the enclaves turned over to us, so we're gonna have more irrigation. More water, no?
We'll have a small amount. The nice thing is that the enclaves, they are not turning the stormwater pond over to us, the surrounding area of the stormwater pond to us. The water surface and the flow, we have the easement to maintain that for the stormwater system. But unlike the lakes here, where there's a large buffer around the stormwater pond, we just have an easement to gain access. We negotiated this very carefully. So that we have the right to bring our equipment in and do whatever's necessary to maintain the stormwater flow and the storage capacity within the pond. But we are not responsible for mowing around the pond or
But
doing,
what about irrigation?
we don't have to irrigate that. We have
I don't
the
mean
small
for that.
strip
I'm
in the
talking
front.
About any CBD areas. within
The only CDD area we have is the strip right along 5 Oaks. That berm along 5 Oaks.
Virtually nothing.
Right. So hopefully that will stay down.
So for water and sewer, we've increased it by 20%.
10%.
10%. But we did to each of them. Now, we've already been told by OUC, they're doing a 10% on their fuel rate, which isn't a full 10% across the board. But again, a lot of our street maintenance and street lighting contracts are coming to the end of their life. We're not sure what that's going to be.
So
That just
everything is
gives
just
us,
10% more.
right, a buffer.
Right.
Operations and maintenance, we're dropping the telephone out, utility is remaining the same at this time. We have the ponds slash bucklight, we added bucklight to that, so that did go up by the amount of the chemical treatment of bucklight to keep the invasive water species out. And the other costs associated with at least one hydrilla treatment in one of our ponds for the year. And that the only extra thing was an additional 5,000 that was put in there in case we wanted to
Pond planting.
do any pond plantings. We were given some really bare ponds that had never been planted. I know Greg used to come in and do a great planting job, but those, it would not hurt us to upgrade those. Pools went up a bit because the pool supplies going up. Alleyways stayed the same. The one big thing here. Point out anything that you may have changed that I don't see.
Storage lot went down significantly for the cost, $5,000 in the
Mhm.
20,000 for this year.
Right.
Boats went up by 4,000, but we have
We have
an
to,
aging fleet.
yes.
I know people, I'm just gonna say this for residents who may listen later or whatever. So we have $25,000 shown there. We spent 23,000 almost in 2021. And there is the fact there because it's like the basketball courts and the dog parks and all the parks and the pavilions and, just.
Pressure washing their
Yeah,
roofs, which will
yeah.
come up.
The bathrooms and it's like there's a lot of infrastructure there to maintain.
The other big one is the invasives and
Yeah.
follow-up. And right
Follow-up
now,
is Bowman Blair, right?
it's 50% of the contract you already approved,
It's 97.
correct? Blair and Bowman. Is it Blair? Okay. Their monitoring is in there. And then there's also some in there when your staff starts
Chemical treatment.
doing their thing.
And, we need to watch this closely because we are having a major Coven grass invasion of our actual landscape areas. So we need to keep an eye on that too.
I'm not recommending you go with that.
Yeah, and then some of our light poles, some of the exterior structures are starting to crack and, like you
So
said,
the
it must
question
be
is, do
hit
we
by
let them
car.
get close to the and then require some replacement?
Well, I've asked OUC for something in writing to clarify, because if you look at the thing and you do get a maintenance charge, you would think that that is included. It's not. Or at least I shouldn't say that. It has not been included in other districts. We've actually had to pay to repair them. They will come out and redo the light, which now I think they're switching some to LED and stuff. But that's what their maintenance is.
And we can't require them to switch to LED?
I think right now, they're not even asking, as one burns
They're
out,
doing it.
they're just coming and putting LED. That's
Because
why,
that was a concern of residents, and we require them to use more energy.
We're not paying for the electricity anyway.
yeah, so they're coming
The
out.
street lighting,
Well, and they are converting the bulbs over as part of their energy efficiency
Correct.
program, and it's not costing us other than what we normally pay.
well, the question comes down with the light poles. Do we or do we not own them?
Well, and that's what I'm trying to get. 'Cause if you read some of those contracts, it tells you this and this, and you pay this, and you're at the end of your lease, but it really never
Doesn't say.
delineates that
Mhm.
you, the district, owns them, or OUC still owns them. So I'm trying to get something in writing, and what I've gotten in other districts is, no, you don't own them, you're just not paying a lease on them anymore.
Yeah. Which
So-
we haven't been for a while.
Correct.
But one of the bigger questions comes in is that contract has a limit on what they can increase our maintenance costs on, and
Yeah.
that will no longer be in effect. And
That's what it is.
yeah,
With-
so
With your lease.
if they start jerking that up, then we're gonna have to rally the residents to go to OUC meetings and get it fixed. So
Well, the question is, do we leave that $10,000 in there? With the, are we gonna assume doing work on other people's property is my question.
So it's kind of like
I'd
working with
rather-
the county, right?
Right.
Where the county owns it and you want them to come mow your right of way, but it never gets done. So you decide, I'm
I
gonna
gotta
do
do
it because it's that. But by your final budget, I'm hoping to have
An
something
answer.
in writing from them on those two major points. So at least we have something to hold them to. I don't know that I'll get it, but
And understand that although there's not anything that says there's still OUCs at the end of the contract period, they can just turn them over to us.
Mhm.
You know, they can say they're at the end of what we consider their useful
Useful life.
life, so good luck, Harmony.
that's right.
In which
Yeah.
case we really have an issue. And so it would be better to at least have something in there. So. Security, that's mainly our,
That's your Bright House. There was also $3,000 contingency for equipment, TVs, cameras, your access cards, all of that comes out of that line item.
and we need to have a rulemaking workshop after we finish all the budget and stuff to really come up with how we're gonna deal with the access cards, since the cost of them has gone up more rather considerably, and how we move forward with that. Fuel went up, as everybody knows, when they pull up to the gas station, so we bumped that up. Hopefully, it will be offset to a certain extent by our replacing some of our fuel operated by electric operated vehicles. But I don't know how much that will be.
Depends how many electrics you buy.
We're gonna try and buy all of them, but one appears that our need
There is a need
outstrips
for
the
one.
market, and
Yes.
we'll talk about that later in the meeting. Capital outlay vehicles, again, we've got 30,000 for this year. We're gonna buy the one UMax and apparently the heavy
Polaris.
duty work vehicle.
So that number is about right for those two. Actually, you'll have a little bit of extra here
About $2,000, right?
if the market
Yeah,
holds the way it's.
but for next year, we went ahead and carried forward another 30,000 because again, we have two vehicles. One was stolen
One was crashed.
and one was crashed.
Right.
And now,
Insurance is gonna pay out full on them.
right, they will pay some on them and we'll be able to recoup some of that.
Right.
But so if you, I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to adjust that a bit. And the last big item there is the reserve contribution, and we talked
Oh.
about that.
Can we back up a minute to the vehicles?
Sure.
We're not going to get either of those vehicles in this year's budget.
No, that's what I'm saying. So next year,
That's why there's no-
You brought it forward. Yeah, okay. All right.
yeah, so that's why we did that.
I thought you were thinking we were going to be able to spend 30,000 this year and move another 30 for more next. Okay.
So, and then the reserve, we took directly out of the reserve study, right? You double
Yes.
check
Can I
that?
say something about that?
Yes.
So I was taking a look at that today, and all I have is the January reserve study. January reserve study has prices for things that are way
Way
a
lower.
third or less lower
Mhm.
than what the bids are coming in. And their recommendation for annual assessments or, annual assessments, annual budget line items that we should include in our budget. None of them were over $300,000. They were all above, like every year it increases a little. I think it started at like 316. But that number, so we have 300 now, but that number is based on reserve numbers for big ticket items that are way low.
Yeah, so,
Now, we do have, I was looking at what we have in our unassigned funds compared to what they have. It doesn't seem like we have more funding than that. But I mean, they have like $130,000 or something for like alleyway repair. And, I just saw a number today, it was 660,000.
So what happened, it's been adjusted, and so the 300 is, yes, there's a different number all the time and it fluctuates. A reserve study is used as a guide, so if you look at all of that as a whole, 300 was kind of the average of what, you're never gonna be fully funded. It's just, I mean, I've never seen a district that's fully funded yet. However, 300 was kind of the median number taken based across your whole reserve study. Again, that number, that's something that you all can adjust, but doing that number annually would put you in good shape as far as the recommendations of the reserve study.
As they stand now, what I'd rather do is use the lower number on the lower things for this year, since everybody's in a crunch.
What do you mean by that?
A lot of families are really
No,
struggling.
I mean, the lower, you said.
Oh, the 300,000 is actually on the low end, as you just described, because the costs that we're looking at and seeing are way higher than what we anticipate, or what we're seeing our bids come back as now. So, but I'd rather err on the side to keep this low at this point. Now, if our landscaping changes and we can shift some of the money down there, that would be good. But I think to put it to where it really should be right now would cause extreme pain throughout the community.
Definitely.
So. Okay, we are at the point where we're ready to start our regular meeting. Any other quick comments before I call our regular meeting to order?
And they can come in there. There's a bunch of people waiting.
Oh, okay.
Why are they reading out
Anyone
there?
that's on the Zoom
They just
meeting,
saw that we had a meeting going on, so
They didn't want to come in the middle of
They were
it.
courteous.
now they're coming in.
and anybody that's on the Zoom meeting, I need to stop this one and restart, so I need to dial back in again.